now let's do the forearm. There are two bones that make up the forearm. We have the radius on the thumb side in anatomical position, and the ulna is on the pinky side. And the way to remember that the radius is on the thumb side is when you take your radial pulse, typically you will take the radial pulse by putting two fingers on the thumb side of your wrist to feel your pulse. So that's how you remember that the radius is on the thumb side. Also, what's cool is the radius has this really interesting shape to the proximal end. This is called the radial head, and it kind of looks like a little cup. So this is the radial head, S, and R, the whole thing, that's referring to the radius. And T is referring to this little flare out that's at the end of the radius called the radial styloid process. So it's a little flare that flares toward the thumb, radial styloid process. On the pinky side, as I said before, we have our ulna. So M is referring to that whole bone that we call the ulna. Q is this little flare out, and you can't really see it great with the letter in the way, but a little flare out on the ulna, the distal ulna, and that's called the ulna styloid process. And then we have this little lip that's right here, and this is called the coronoid process. It's like a little lip at the top part of the ulna, and it'll when you bend your elbow, when you flex your elbow, this coronoid process will tuck right into the coronoid fossa. As I said before, if we turn this around, we have N, and that's the pointy part of your elbow. That's known as the olecranon process, and you can actually feel it on your own elbow. And then we have this little area. You can see that the ulna has this kind of notch, and that is called the trochlea notch. So all of that is part of the ulna. Trochlea notch, olecranon. We have the coronoid process, the ulna itself, and then the ulna styloid process.